Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are acting as historical detectives, totally deconstructing a very famous European event, the 1848 to 1849 Hungarian Revolution. Now, you might think you already know this story from the standard history books, but we're going to look at some fascinating primary sources and hard data that literally flip the established narrative on its head. We are going to separate the constructed, legendary myth from the actual boots-on-the-ground historical reality. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the myth of the Hungarian Revolution. Second, the Slovak roots of Kossuth. Third, the scapegoat Artúr Görgei. And finally, the ethnic composition of the army.
Section 1. The myth of the Hungarian Revolution, a widely accepted historical narrative.
So, to really appreciate the incredible reality we're about to uncover, we absolutely have to understand the legend first, right? Traditionally, the 1848-1849 Hungarian Revolution is defined as a purely Magyar, or Hungarian, struggle for independence from Austrian Habsburg rule. And it's heavily championed by this iconic leader, Lajos Kossuth, who is historically painted as the ultimate uncompromising champion of Magyar rights. Basically, this is the textbook version, a unified, ethnically Hungarian uprising against an empire. But as you'll see as we analyze these sources, history is rarely that simple.
Section 2. The Slovak roots of Kossuth, the man behind the legend.
I want you to take a really close look at the legendary face of this supposedly pure Magyar uprising. It is a fascinating contradiction. On one side, we have Lajos Kossuth's political identity. He is revered as a fierce fighter for Magyar rights. In fact, he was known to categorically deny these exact same rights to other nationalities within Hungary, absolutely refusing to compromise with non-Magyar politicians. But let's look at his true origins. He was actually born Ludovic Kossuth. He was the son of a Slovak lawyer and landowner. And get this, he was raised spending a ton of time with his uncle, Juraj Kossuth, who was a massive Slovak patriot actively opposing Magyarization. It's an incredible paradox. The great Magyar hero had deep Slovak roots, yet fiercely suppressed non-Magyar rights during his rise to power. Later in life, he even tried to deny these roots entirely, literally blaming Austrian historians for supposedly inventing them.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is exactly when Kossuth finally decided to change his tune regarding those other nationalities. As the source text points out, he only remembered minority rights after the arrival of the Russian Cossacks. That's right. It wasn't until July 1849, when the Austrian emperor called in the Russian army to crush the uprising and things looked incredibly bleak, that a national law was hastily prepared, offering concessions to minorities. It was, for sure, a desperate last-minute political pivot, not some genuine ideological shift.
Section 3. The scapegoat Artúr Görgei, the fallout of Vilagos.
As the revolution was facing its imminent collapse, we see this highly dramatic and controversial transfer of power. To understand the fallout, let's just look at the timeline. By August 11, 1849, the writing was pretty much on the wall. The revolution was failing. So on this date, Kossuth steps down from his leadership role. He hands over the defense of the entire country to his top military commander, General Artúr Görgei. And then, Kossuth flees. He escapes the country entirely, eventually settling in Italy, essentially leaving Görgei holding the bag right before the devastating final defeat by the Russian troops at Vilagos.
And what happens at that surrender is truly astonishing. Just read this quote from General Artúr Görgei as he surrendered. "I don't care what you think of me. Actually, I am not Magyar but Slovak." Think about the profound irony here for a second. The top military commander of the supposedly pure Magyar revolution, the guy left behind to actually surrender its forces, wasn't even Hungarian. He openly admitted his Slavic heritage right then and there.
So naturally, following the surrender, Kossuth vehemently accused Görgei of treason. But why? Let's neutrally compare two prominent historical theories on this. On one hand, historian Ervin Szabó argues that Kossuth essentially manufactured the betrayal legend as a tactical move to save his own reputation and secure his position as the leader of the Hungarian exiles. On the other hand, Paul Lenvai suggests the betrayal legend was artificially constructed to preserve the myth of an invincible Hungarian nation. The idea being that Hungary couldn't possibly be defeated on the battlefield only through deceit. If that myth shattered, the fear was that the people would lose their motivation and just revert to their mother tongues, like Slovak. It is a classic case of using a scapegoat to forge a national identity.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this builds into our final revelation, the ethnic composition of the army, the April 1849 data. I promised you some hard data, and well, here it is. Our ultimate piece of evidence in deconstructing this myth comes straight from the primary sources of the time.
On April 28, 1849, the newspaper Slovenska Lipa published a definitive, documented list of the actual ethnic backgrounds of the most prominent leaders in the Hungarian army camp. This isn't some modern reinterpretation, this is a contemporary report right from the thick of the conflict.
And wow, these numbers completely shatter the narrative. Out of 28 top military commanders fighting for this Hungarian Revolution, the breakdown is staggering. We have 15 Poles, that is the vast majority. Then we have 4 Frenchmen, 2 Englishmen, and 3 Wallachians and Germans. And officially categorized as Hungarians? Only 4. Let that sink in for a second. Out of the entire top military brass, merely 4 individuals were categorized as Hungarian. This completely, totally shatters the narrative of an exclusively Magyar uprising.
But wait, let's look even closer at those 4 specific names officially categorized as Hungarians: Kiss, Percel, Mészáros, and Görgei. Well, we've already established that Görgei openly admitted to being Slovak at his surrender. As for the others, historical sources note that a name like Mészáros strongly suggests the root word mesar, which means butcher in Slavic languages, hinting at diverse, non-Magyar origins even within this tiny minority of 4. The true native languages spoken at home by Kiss, Percel, and Mészáros remain a subject of historical curiosity. So it's highly likely that even the official Hungarians might not have been fully Hungarian.
So what does this all mean? We've peeled back the layers of this historical myth using direct sources and hard data, which leaves us with one highly provocative question. If the political leader was of Slovak descent, the top general was Slovak, and the vast majority of the military commanders were Polish, French, English, and German, who did this revolution actually serve? What was its true purpose? And how did a multi-ethnic military effort become remembered as a singular national myth? I'll leave you to ponder that. It just goes to show why we must always look at the raw data and question the narratives we are handed. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning history.